going on YouTube? Welcome to another video. Joining me here for a leg day. We're doing our tried and true SSB squat, safety bar squats, and getting those legs worked. So it's been an interesting recovery period, at least when it comes to lifting, adding in deadlifts again and starting to go heavy again. I didn't realize how much deadlifts take out of you when you remove them, because when I was squatting 3 times a week, I was recovering relatively quickly. The moment I started introducing the deadlifts, all of a sudden glutes, hips, hamstrings were sore, and I could just feel that exhaustion that I had, missed for the last few months. So definitely being a little bit more strategic with that, and I'm actually doing them as a secondary, so it's not even the first movement, which probably would allow me to move more weight, but I think I'm going to leave deadlifts where they're at right now, at least until I start transitioning to heavier weights and I'm a little bit more stable. Basically, squats are going to be the focus, allow me to pre-fatigue myself, and then kind of lower that upper limit of deadlifts so that I can let my body recover, work more on form, let things kind of heal and attach correctly, and just more scaffolding and structure for kind of what I plan to do going forward. So we're just going to keep nailing squats, and they suck and they do not feel good. And I'm consistently feeling the effects of the deadlifts on the squat. Honestly, I feel like if you just squat, you'll be fine. You need to do some sort of hip extension, though, whether it's Romanian deadlifts or traditional deadlifts on the ground. But I just like doing deadlifts. I enjoy the process of working up to a heavy weight. I enjoy the fatigue I get, but I am going to have to taper back on all that. But honestly, with the removal of a lot of the strongman stuff, I'm not as fatigued and exhausted. Occasionally when allergies and stuff flare up and life happens, I'll feel tired, but usually once I get going, I'm good to go. So you'll see here, again, these are not heavy deadlifts. I'm speaking from a point several weeks on where I'm doing heavier weights. But it is something interesting to notice, though, because I think when you're a beginner and you first start training, you're doing movements that you're not familiar with, and they're going to seem more difficult. But when you start adding the weight, you're not cognizant of how much that takes out of you because you have no frame of reference. But when you start getting back into those 400, 500-pound deadlifts, that's when you really start to feel that fatigue. And obviously, as a beginner, it's going to take you some time to get to that point to feel that, to know any different. You can kind of keep adding weight because the human body is just so strong. Deadlifting 220 is not difficult for the average male. But having to kind of come back down and rebuild, I'm learning that the hard way now. So just trying to really focus on form, make sure the lats are tight, and I'm not putting too much stress on the bicep. There's not a lot you can do, honestly, because you're connected to the bar, and as a result, those muscles are going to work in the way that they're supposed to. So just kind of focusing on that here. And then still doing my belt squat, which I'm using for a lot of the hypertrophy stuff. I'm really enjoying the process of using the belt squat. It just helps me add extra volume to the squat without loading the spinal column, spine, Mortal Kombat fatality spine or whatever, I don't know. But adding in those posterior movements, my quads are really easy to get a pump in and to feel like they're working. Hamstrings are a little bit more difficult. I really have to push my hips back, and I think that comes from I've got a really long tibia and fibia, really long lower leg, so I have to travel quite a bit of distance to get to where I want to be. And being able to kind of not focus on the weight on my shoulders and strictly on the leg involvement. I mean, that's kind of why people like the leg press so much. You get the reinforcement of the pad and everything. But this is obviously going to be a bit more applicable. The more lifts you can do where you're emulating the main movement you're trying to do is going to be better overall. For practicing that movement, you're just going to get so efficient at doing the squat movement because you're constantly working in that motor pattern. And then the assistance of having the handles or the poles here, you'll kind of notice I'm not really gripping too hard because my hands will slide. I'll just kind of use them as almost like a tripod almost to get some stability. Again, I'm beginning to think those long femurs I have are the reasons why I'm not able to maintain the type of balance I am when I squat, and so I push back and then I have to claim all that real estate, so me coming out of the hole is a lot longer of a range of motion than somebody who's got shorter ones. So I don't know. You'll see here like how much longer the lower leg is than my upper leg. And the longer a limb you have, the more it takes to fill out that muscle mass and kind of get that density to it. And so I must have a short upper leg and then a long lower leg, which is not ideal for anything. Obviously, you'd want a shorter lower leg and more densely muscle packed upper leg, because that's, the quads and hamstrings and the glutes are a lot more powerful than your calves. So I don't know. It's just something I'm going to have to deal with. Nothing you can do about it, just the way that you're born. So I'm going to keep working. Like I said in other videos, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and trying to figure things out. I've kind of understood my upper limit when it comes to strength. I'm going to have to put a little bit more, effort and strength into figuring those things out. That's why I like the deadlift so much. It's just always clicked, and I haven't had much stress here. But barbell rows here, I've debated going back to these from the floor, but I'm actually liking the pump that I'm getting from doing them this way, and just slowly working up, using the mirror, and just trying to touch the same spot. It is a little interesting though, because like I've got a lot of belly fat there, and when I'm rowing I'll like hit it and I'll look in the mirror and be like, that doesn't look attractive, and it's a little funny to see though. But it just allows me to kind of hit consistency in the same spot to get the correct lat activation, and I have to go wider on these to get full contraction, which is kind of annoying because the narrow grip I can do so much more weight, which is, I'm not sure how that works exactly. I guess shorten range of motion, but when I do them this way, you can see the pump in my arms, you can see kind of everything working, and I really do them more bent over just because my torso is so long, or short, I'm sorry. As you can see here, look how much longer my legs are from my torso. I'm basically bent over 100%, but I'm still relatively upright when it comes to my leg positioning, which is super frustrating because you really have to clear all that and move it backwards in order to get into the ideal position. I do feel like it's a longer range of motion, which I guess is good because better contraction, and I don't have to, stand on like an elevated block, which I've done before, but this is just, it's been working out pretty well, and I'm using the Versa grips, and you can see here a really good angle, kind of where I'm rowing to, and I'm really trying to retract that scapula when I'm doing it. It is a little confusing to do and kind of stress-inducing on the lower back, so you have to make sure everything's nice and tight. I really brace into my core and kind of go from there. And then just still working on T-bar rows, using whatever I've got available in the gym to do the things that I need to do. It's mainly just relearning everything and then just overloading in any sort of way where you can get, the desired results. If we had hammer strength machine, I really like that to do the unilateral stuff, but you got to make do with what you have. And really, lifting is just about finding the lifts that work for you. Not everyone is going to work out the same way, but the same principles are going to hold. The lifts where you can do the most amount of weight and have the greatest amount of progressive resistance, you're going to see the most benefit from. If you're maxing out machines because you're doing not inappropriately, but just the incorrect way, then you're not going to see the gains that you want, and you'll get to a heavy weight and you won't get much activation and stuff from that. And you'll see it here. Look at my chest when I'm doing these rows. With that chest coming up, I'm retracting that scapula and feeling that full contraction in the lats. And it's just been something that I've worked on and I've had to do. You'll see a lot of people when they do this, their shoulders will be round over and they'll just barely touch, their torso. But if you're able to kind of bring that chest up, that is your scapula retracting, and you should be able to automatically feel those lats. And just allowing that stretch, I could hold for a little bit more, but these workouts get fatiguing. Same thing here. I have to really bring that chest forward and up and almost arch, which is honestly the correct way to do and get those lats involved to the best of their ability. So like I said, just kind of find what works for you. Use those activation feelings that you're getting in your muscle groups to let you know like what's working and what's not. And then modify your form to be able to get there. I used to want to be as vertical as I can when doing lat pull downs, but now I'm kind of touching in front and doing that same arch again, and it's probably changed the game for activation, especially now where I'm feeling significant soreness and activation in those lats. So you got to adapt, you got to change, Keep improving. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching the latest video. If you want to help support the channel, I actually own my own wet shaving and grooming e-commerce website where everything's handmade by me. It's www.apexsoaps.com, and you can get a 10% off code using wet shaver. We've got some cool scents here. We've got some Coca-Cola scents, a horchata scent, traditional barbershop, just some really cool stuff. And you can purchase samples or you can buy the whole set. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email. Be quick to respond. Thanks for watching.